How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
All right, so they did a study on how many licks it actually takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. There's actually been a number of studies. It took them, so the commercial came out like in the 70s or the 60s, whenever it was.
By the way, let me just interject. The commercial, which I just rewatched the other day, is so fucking bizarre. It's like this naked kid wandering through the woods talking to animals about his lollipop.
It's the 60s, weird. Man. It was like everyone was on acid and shit.
And Sisqo saw that with,
yeah.
I want to make a song about that one.
It's so part of pop culture. It's crazy. But like, so that commercial came out, like 40 years, 30 plus years before this song. It took them until 2015 to commission a study. And I think it was at NYU, where they, presumably had people lick a bunch of Tootsie Roll Pops. And then there was actually mathematicians at NYU that calculated the amount of Tootsie Roll Pop that's dissolved per lick and went down. And their finding was about 1,000 if you just do the math on it. But when they actually used subjects in the trial of licking the pops, the average came out to about 252.
Interesting. I wonder if Kim read this study too.
I think Lil Kim would agree. It should probably take over 1,000. If I'm catching anything from Lil Kim's lyrics, I think over 1,000 is her vote.
Rap, ages. Cadillac Mills, check out the oil, my Cadillac. Watch yourself, shake your ass. I came there with my front like they had the manpower like more or less, more so. I will be by your side till you get to the center of the oh my dog, it's bigger than hip hop.
Season 3.
All right. Welcome back to Rap of Ages. This is Season 3, our podcast. We're breaking down the best hip-hop hits from the year Y2K. We're talking about what was happening, why it was popular, what they were thinking, and where it all went wrong.
Where did it all go wrong, Brian?
Ooh. Well, this week, I'm going to say it is when Sisqo got sexually aroused by the owl from the Tootsie Pop commercial.
Whoo!
Whoo! And with that, I'm Brian.
And I'm DJ Turntable.
And I'm Jared Johnson. And if you don't know that late 90s and early 2000s hip-hop isn't safe for work, small children, or your virgin ears, well, we don't know how to help you.
You're completely on your own. And as always, check us out on social media or wherever you get your podcasts. We're up on iTunes, Google, SoundCloud, YouTube Music, Mixcloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Spotify.
Hit us up on that social thing at ROA Podcast on Insta and Twitter, Rap of Ages Podcast on Facebook, Rap of Ages Podcast at Gmail, and of course, don't forget to hit up the reading list on Nook.
Hit us up on Nook. For the hip-hop heads, we're still pumping out the Evolutions mixtapes on the same podcast feeds. For more and links to every possible way to listen, don't forget to check out the webpage, rapofages.com, or just shout, play Rap of Ages at your device.
If you like the show, subscribe, rate us a review. Let us know, give us feedback. If you don't like the show, obviously Jared's always still got his pager. He's also now accepting smoke signals. Because he's going backwards in time. He is. So as always, thank you guys very, very much for listening. So this week, D, who are we talking about?
It's another Lil. We're back to Brooklyn. Bad Boy Family. Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Lil Kim. How many licks?
Queen Bee.
Center of the O.
Oh.
So I want to start by not just saying maybe, not just Lil Kim and not just go diving into her background. I want to start with the end of when we're talking about Lil Kim, who is Lil Kim? What has she done? She is rated on many, many lists as one of the top 50 MCs of all time. VH1 listed her as one of the top 100 greatest women in music history. numerous platinum albums. She owns one of the highest selling singles ever sold worldwide with the Lady Marmalade song. So she has done so much in the industry and for the industry. Kind of as Dave was talking about, grew up in Brooklyn, was discovered by Notorious B.I.G., the infamous Notorious B.I.G. In 1994. She was part of the group that he formed when she was 20 years old. That group was Junior Mafia, obviously. She was one of the founding members. Some of the other more infamous members, too, are Little C's and Capone of Capone and Noriega. But Kim was really the best and most successful one in that group, I think, which
Pop
is why
quiz, Brian.
Yes, sir.
What does Junior Mafia stand for?
Ooh, I did not look up the acronym. I pass.
Jared Johnson for 500.
I think it's Masters at Finding Intelligent Attitudes.
That is correct.
Intelligent Attitudes. Ooh. They were staying woke before woke was a thing?
That's right. And writing anthems for players.
So, ooh, nice. So Junior Mafia, they had their, I don't even want to count the second one. They had their album in 1995, obviously prior to Biggie's death in 97. Lil Kim had the solo spinoff. Her first album, Hardcore, was 1996. It went double platinum, but we are talking about her second album, The Notorious K.I.M., and we are talking about her second single off of her second album, which is How Many Licks?
So before we dive into the song, I think really important to recognize the influence that Biggie had on Lil Kim. And I don't know, Jared or Brian, do one of you want to talk about how they met and how that relationship panned out?
Yeah. So they're both from Brooklyn, Kimberly Denise Jones and Biggie. And it sounds like Kim had a pretty shitty childhood, and she was kind of bouncing around, and her father was abusive. She ended up living with her father when her mother couldn't take care of her anymore, and she was basically homeless. And then at some point when she was a teenager, I think she was getting a little too wild for her father to handle, and he ended up kicking her out of the house. And I think she just knew Biggie from around the neighborhood, basically, and he kind of blew up and just kind of plucked her out of the neighborhood and really just started her huge career.
Right. And of course, they had that turned into a love affair, and that continued through Biggie's marriage to Faith Evans. So there was, the notorious love triangle, if you will, between the three of them. And she is, in fact, still part of his official estate right now. So you'll hear a lot of Biggie samples on her albums over the years, including on this album. But not only that, he really developed her as a rapper. And so when she kind of got this persona, Lil Kim, and it's no secret how she got her name. She's short, and her name is Kim.
Yes,
so,
a towering 4'11".
Yeah, and you stack her next to Biggie at 300 pounds, and it makes for a little bit of a nice juxtaposition.
Juxtaposition, there it is. Nice.
There's your SAT word for the podcast. And so they created the persona Lil Kim, and one of the articles I was reading described her style as gangsta porno rap. And I think that's kind of appropriate for this song, where like Biggie would just tell her like, hey, just play up the sex sells, sex sells. And that is kind of an intentional addition to her persona. I don't know that that's really a reflection of her as a person, but I think when I first heard her music, she came out at the same time as Foxy Brown with Il Nana. And, Foxy was like Jay-Z's girl. Biggie had Lil Kim. And, Eve was coming out around this time with the Rough Riders. Eve, I think was less sexualized than Foxy Brown and Lil Kim. But you kind of listen to them as like, I wasn't a huge Lil Kim fan back in the day. I was like, oh, she's just talking about sex to be provocative. And like, that's all she does is talk about her pussy. But like listening to her music, there's a lot more to her and a lot more to the raps. Maybe not a lot more to this song, but I think it really was the hook to get people interested in Lil Kim and like create that controversy. And you add that up with the provocative clothing, the wigs, all the different styles she had. And, she was hard to ignore, hard to miss. And I think that's like why she's had the staying power she's had.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, in terms of that talk speaks to Kim's popularity, or within like society or kind of culturally, but in terms of this song, like, why do you think this song was popular?
Sisqo is a huge reason why this is popular, but I think he actually co-wrote the song. He has a writer credit on this, which is also kind of interesting too. Like, I think he wrote the hook for it.
Yeah, it's interesting that they don't specifically say who has what. And I know Kim, did write a lot of her stuff too. So I'm curious to know how much, Sisqo always says that he does everything. So he says he wrote it. So I'm assuming Sisqo did more than write the chorus, and I'm assuming that he didn't write the whole thing either, even though he might claim to. But yeah, he was a huge influence and huge reason they were, really excited to do the collaboration. I know we talked about the story in our Sisqo bonus track last season, where
the dragon.
there was a lot of controversy around Sisqo not being able to be part of the music video for this because of some label beef, and Sisqo kept having to kind of do more things for the label to be able to do things for this song, because Sisqo and Lil Kim were on competing labels, and the other one didn't want to make the other one money. So it was really interesting how the industry, we go more into that story in the Sisqo track, but really interesting how the industry really kind of put the kibosh on this, and they did what they could. But that does not include Sisqo in the music video.
Which is a damn shame, because it's a great music video. Actually, I don't really have anything negative at all to say about the music video. It's weird and like fantastic and bizarre, and like Lil Kim is manufacturing sex dolls of herself, which just fits in the theme of the whole song. But it's like a super weird, it's like very different than normal rap video. And I can't imagine how much better it would have been with Sisqo on it, because I'm pretty sure Sisqo just makes every music video he's in better.
He would do some dancing, and it would look nice.
He'd do some amazing dancing and some Matrix level shit, and would inspire movies for generations, as he does. But my understanding of this, and I don't know if you guys found anything on like the story of how the song came together, but my understanding is Sisqo wrote the chorus, wanted to do the track with Lil Kim. He begged the label. They said, okay, you can do the song with Lil Kim if you do this other song with DMX, which is what these bitches want. Another good song, albeit pretty misogynistic, but it was a good track at the time. And then, like Sisqo tells it, as only Sisqo can, he's like, oh, and then the label got amnesia again and, wouldn't let him be on the video. But I like to just kind of ruminate on the idea of Sisqo has a hook that's how many licks does it take to get to the center of the oh. And he's just running around pitching that to people. Like, guys, it'll be like a Tootsie Roll commercial. It'll be amazing. Lil Kim, you in? You're in? She's in.
It's the same way the thong song came about, right? When he's like, his buddy was telling a story, and his buddy was, oh, and then that girl, some of that thong, kind of sounded like just like Dave Chappelle. He's like, oh, that's a great track list for a song. I'm assuming this came up the exact same way. He was watching the Tootsie Roll commercial, and him and his boys were high or whatever, and we're sitting there, and they're like, yo, how many licks that girl take to get to the center? They're like, dude, we got a track here.
I'd love to see Sisqo's notebook of just song ideas. I assume that's a thing that exists somewhere, and I bet it's great.
100%. Right next to all his cape and outfit designs.
So I will say, Sisqo makes this song great. He could have made the video even greater. The beat is also amazing on this song. Like, you've got the Knight Rider throughout it, which I didn't really fully notice the first, 10 times I listened to this song. And then even though she mentions it straight out, so she kind of tells you like, hey, by the way, it's the Knight Rider beat. Yeah, the black Lamborghini just goes by. And it's one of those beats, right? Like, it tricks you into liking it because the Knight Rider beat is hot, and it's on a ton of rap songs, right? Like, there's a million rap songs that have like taken that beat. So you're going to like it because nothing not to like about Knight Rider. It's got the comb sounds. We talked a little bit about this before the show. That was hot in the 2000s. I actually had to look up if it was the Neptunes. Wasn't the Neptunes. They did the remix. Comb sounds weren't as good, weirdly. Diddy did a great job on this track. But the song is like actually ahead of its time. If you really kind of like listen, this is where you start to get the infusion of EDM and hip hop. And if you listen like to the first couple bars of the track, like it really sounds like 1-2 Step. Sierra and Missy Elliott, which is I think 2 or 3 years later, 2003, 2005, when a lot of this sound is hugely popular with the like sort of EDM sounding bass, like the comb type sounds coming through, but not in like a hip hop way with like a deep bass and like a mixer on it, but like with more of a heavy electronic sound. And so like it's really like very much a rap song of the 2000s. Like it's early 2000s, like quintessentially this sound. And I think that's also why it's a popular song, and it doesn't sound like dated musically.
I think it's funny as you go back, and this song, based on where culture has gone over the last 20 years, this song sounds more popular and more relevant, and definitely sounds ahead of its time, because to your point, it doesn't feel dated. You don't feel like you're listening to Backstreet Boys or Britney Spears or something that's like in like just stuck in the 2000s. Like you feel like she's a trailblazer in so many things. And a lot of where we are today, it feels like this and a lot of her music helped to pave the road for that.
I mean, this is what's ultimately really ironic about Lil Kim is I think a lot of the criticism of her and Foxy Brown and others at the time, and I had these same criticisms, is that it's overly sexualized. It's just like shock value for shock value's sake. And then you look like, compare Lil Kim to like Da Brat or Queen Latifah or some of the like big rappers of the early 90s, some of the bigger female rappers of the early 90s. They were much more subdued. They were like hardcore rappers, but rapping about kind of typical subjects, not nearly as sexualized as Lil Kim. And I don't think they had nearly the same staying power, not nearly the same popularity. And then so you get all of this hypersexualization of her tracks and her lyrics, and so it makes you pay attention to Lil Kim. And like I went through and listened to La Bella Mafia, which is her 2005 album, got 5 mics in the source. Incredible piece of hip hop. Amazing album. And not because of all the sexualized stuff, because she's actually a really good lyricist. She has something to say about Brooklyn. She has something to say about the hip hop scene. She has that deep connection to Biggie. And so it's, in a lot of ways, her music takes on a lot of his legacy as well. So she's really an important rapper for a lot of reasons. And then fast forward 15 years from there to Cardi B, to Megan Thee Stallion, to WAP, to like all these hypersexualized songs that are coming out now. And that same conversation is still being had, but in a much more positive light, right? There's still a lot of the criticisms, but there's this whole side of hip hop now that says, no, this is like body positive. It's female positive. It's like good for them. And like, this is what we need in this day and age. None of that happens without Lil Kim.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of wanted to talk about her in the context of everybody else and her messaging and the way she kind of opened the box for everybody else. And she's, not only does she embraces sexuality so openly, but she's incredibly talented. I mean, like she's just really an excellent rapper. I was thinking about some of her other songs. It's like All About the Benjamins. Like she's arguably the best verse on that song. Just re-listening to a lot of the
Quiet
things that she's
Storm
been on.
too. She crushes.
Yeah,
with Mobb Deep, like that's better than any of their verses on the original.
Yeah, and she just comes in hot on like a lot of her stuff. Like whenever I hear like "Wanna Bumble with the Bee," huh? It's just like gets me fucking amped up. But there were a lot of talented female artists before her, and like she said some of her inspirations like MC Lyte and Salt and Peppa, like they're all talented, and they've all kind of touched on sex in different ways. MC Lyte had that Roughneck song, Salt and Peppa had Let's Talk About Sex and Ain't Too Proud to Beg, but nobody just like dove into it like Kim did and really pushed the envelope and break it open for everybody else. And I think it's interesting because she's given a lot of interviews where she's saying, well, like all these guys, Too Short and all these guys, they do the same thing, but not everybody's getting all wound up when they say these things. It's only because she's a woman. And she's really, almost everything she talks about it's kind of her centered. It's like her pleasure is important. She's using the guys to achieve pleasure rather than the reverse, which has usually been in hip hop. And I really think that she has kind of brought cunnilingus to the hip hop masses. And there's a lot of songs before them, like hip hop guys always talk about how they never want to do that. And like they say it in the songs, they don't go down, whatever. And there's been, I think, a reversal since her, where it's been much more just openly talked about by the male rappers about going down on women. I think about Big Pun when he says, put away the stick and give you the mustache. And it's just like, there's a lot of songs now where guys are just open to saying that. And I think she personally is responsible for that.
It's a great, like, popular song for all those reasons. Even if I don't think it's actually reflective of Lil Kim necessarily as a rapper, like, entirely.
But I mean, yeah, you take her, she's super attractive. She's talking about sexy things. You put Sisqo on the song and throw in a little Tootsie Roll pop nostalgia. It's hard to go wrong with that combination.
It was the year of Sisqo, basically, in 2000. So anything Sisqo touches is going to be hot. But then you've also got the physical hotness of Lil Kim. And then, the music video is great. I think, the hook is great. Pop culture references all around. She's very inclusive with her lyrics, which we will, I'm assuming you will get to when we get into the lyrics. But Lil Kim is for everyone.
Everybody could have had a chance.
Everyone could have had a chance.
Everybody's like, oh, I could maybe get with Lil Kim too.
Yep. Yo, that sounds great.
My name's John.
Whoa. My name is Dan. She said she likes Dan. That's my name. One of the things I think too that made it interesting too that I like personally is it's been called one of the most sexually explicit songs to ever receive airplay on the radio, which is how you made popular. And I like the fact that, and it's by a woman, is you'd expect something like that from a man that's been, all around. But the fact that, Lil Kim has that title and was able to get that, I thought that was really, really interesting and kind of trailblazing for its time. So that to me was also made it interesting and popular just because of the content.
I think it's pretty amazing that it's an exceptionally graphic song without using that many graphic words. Like if you compare the lyrics to like WAP or some of the other songs, even other songs on this album, like she's got a track called Suck My Dick. Like this.
If I was a dude, I would tell them.
It's, she uses words like meat and dick and lick, but like, it's not like the most graphic.
Are you trying to seduce
me? A lot of it's
Stop.
Very, very suggestive, but it's like playable on the radio though, is my point. Like, cause she's not cursing a ton. And if you bleep out a few choice words here or there, it's still incredibly like sexualized, but without being graphic, if that makes sense. Or without using like overly explicit language.
And like you said, she can certainly get graphic, which she does. But yes, to your point, Dave, it's very suggestive. It's like those horror movies where it's like they don't have to show a lot of gore. It's just a lot of the implication that can really let your mind wander a little bit.
Yep. So that's definitely why it's popular. Let's talk about what they were thinking a little bit. What does Lil Kim have to say? And how many licks does it take?
I think more than 3.
Well, I think it is more than 3. And they actually, I know we're not going to talk about it, or at least we shouldn't talk about it. They did a remix to this song.
Boo.
And I like that they actually did answer that question. Khalees answered that question. With the remix was it Snoop Dogg, Pharrell, and Khalees? And it was Pharrell, like the new chorus is Pharrell asks, how many licks does it take? And Khalees says, I don't know, just keep licking.
It's the worst remix.
It's a really bad remix.
I had to listen to it 3 times just to get through it once. And if you want to hear, we talked last week about like what a bad Snoop verse sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this one is up there. He just starts counting at one point. He's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Like it's absurd. It's really, really, really bad.
Does he mention Calgon at all?
He mentions click clacking quite a bit. There's quite a
Was
bit.
DMX on the track? Did he get to talk about killing people?
Oh man. And I mean, Kim is obviously the best rapper on the track, but it's a really low bar. Little C's does not belong on it either. He's terrible.
I know. I
It's
don't know
really
why.
and like it's produced by the Neptunes, so you would think it'd be better. And like ironically, the comb sounds on the original are much better. It's like an electric comb on this beat, which is great. I actually looked it up. I was like, did the Neptunes make this too? And it was just Diddy
Mhm.
doing Diddy. I also love that, like at this time, right? You obviously had all the R&B crossovers, and normally it's male rapper with some female singer doing the hook, and you kind of have the reverse here, which makes this track interesting. And then if you take a look at the lyrics, as we're going to do, she is just appropriating all like male lyrics, like things that guys say in all of the raps. She's just like reappropriated all of them, which is hilarious and kind of amazing. Especially in the first verse, which I really want to hear Brian read out loud.
She definitely blazed a lot of trails in taking, being sex positive for the female side, rather, that sex can be about the women's pleasure, not just the male pleasure. So it was, and this song is just a good example of that. My favorite verse is probably verse 3. I do have some questions, some of my favorite lines, but we can start with the first verse.
Oh, you want to? What do we have, Brian? Okay, go ahead, Brian. You want to start Lil Kim on the first verse?
Do I?
Yeah.
No. Well. So the first verse is just pretty funny because this is when I talked about why it was popular. She was inclusive. She's just, she's basically saying from the beginning that everybody has a shot at Lil Kim. She doesn't necessarily have a type. Her type is male. That is her type. She said, I've been a lot of places. I've seen a lot of faces. Oh, hell. I've even fucked with different races.
Oh, hell.
She's like, fine, I'll admit it. It's fine. It's a pretty good come out line. It's not quite I came in here with my dick in my hand, but it's quite good. It's good enough that there's actually a techno remix of just the first line of this song, which is pretty epic.
Where do you find this stuff? That you are coming in with facts and obscure references. You, sir,
Jerry Reed, been a lot of places. From I think 2013-ish.
You, sir, have done your homework. You've dived deep into the internet. I'm surprised you made it back in one piece.
Into Lil Kim, Brian. Dove right in.
Well, I mean, there was a white dude named John that had a Queen Bee Rules tattoo on his arm, so that could have been you.
Is she?
He also asked her.
He asked her to go to the prom. So is she doing a little cradle robbing there?
Probably 18, but he would buy her a horse, a Porsche, and a farm. So, at some point,
John's white,
the money outweighs
right?
it.
We assume John is white.
She says it, a white dude.
A white dude named John.
Oh yeah, she says he's white, but it's this is like the stereotype of the white guy who's like obviously he could afford to buy her a horse, a Porsche, and a farm. Just any John could.
I do I like that she says Queen Bee Rules, like you're saying before, Brian. Queen Bee Rules.
Queen Bee Rules. Oh yeah, it's a heavy metal guy with long hair. It's Kurt Cobain basically. Queen Bee Rules, yeah. Devil horns.
It's a perfect white boy personification, and it reminds me of there's a Cannabis line where he says "No fear, like them clothes white boys be wearing." It's like, yeah, white boys do wear no fear clothes.
Do you think he headbangs to rap music? That seems like something John would do.
John would absolutely do that. But like one of the things we talked about, again, being sexually explicit, one of the things that I think makes Kim so graphic is there's not a lot of innuendo in her lines. There are some, and one of my favorite lines does have that. But the next one really doesn't, because she just, Dan from down south, like me to spank him and come in his mouth. Like there's no denying. It's just she's very blatant and blunt with her lyrics and doesn't kind of beat around the issue in a fun way. It just comes right out and says it, where you just go, oh goodness me.
But
is
this is the
intense.
like taking male language though, like from porno, from music, whatever it's from. Like it's not something you hear a woman saying. And like throughout this verse, right, or throughout a lot of her songs, even she's doing that, I think, very intentionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's Tony. He's Italian.
Italian.
He's Italian. He doesn't give a fuck. That's what she likes about him. There was this Puerto Rican Poppy who doesn't actually deserve a name. He used to be a deacon, but now he'd be sucking her off on the weekend.
More male language.
Indeed. And then there's just this black dude. Again, doesn't have a name because she just called him King Kong because he had a big ass dick and a hurricane tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, everyone, all races, shapes, ages, colors, everyone has a shot with Lil Kim.
Yeah, everyone is welcome. I feel like this song is broken up to verse 1 where it's, you know, everybody can come in, all different races, and everything's centered around her pleasure also. And then verse 2, when she starts off, this is for my people in jail. Like literally the whole verse is for the people in jail. Like I feel this is like kind of her gift to them, and gets very graphic about them masturbating to her. And then the third verse is really more just your standard rap talking about cars and money and going to the clubs and stuff like that.
The third verse too is very much like the peel the curtain back, and we'll talk about it. But the second verse is, yes, very focused on people in jail who like Lil Kim.
Yeah, very focused. Brian, should I take this one?
Go for it.
Okay. So this, like she said, goes out to people in jail, beating their dicks to the XXL magazine. You know how I look. You like how I look in the aqua green. Get your Vaseline. And she's referring to this cover she had on the XXL magazine. She had this like aqua green wig on and was topless, kind of in a bath. And she says, "This is." Roll some weed up with some tissues and close your eyes. Then imagine your tongue in between my thighs. And then she's basically like moaning and climaxing. And then she's kind of taking it to the next level where she's like, here, let me help you. Let me, here's roll some weed up. Think about me. Let me start moaning for you. It's just.
Which gets it back into the gangster porno rap thing, right?
She takes a moan break in the middle. Like an instrumental and some rock song, she takes a moan break.
That's right. And then she says, all right, that's enough. It's like, okay, that's enough fantasizing about me for now. And then so you think like, okay, maybe that's over, that she's slow. And she's talking about people in the yard. Kim got your dick hard, starting fights in the yard. Hotter than a Pop-Tart, fresh out the toaster. People do anything for a Lil Kim poster. Essays, Bloods, Crips, all the thugs. Up north in the hole, they all want to know. So she literally dedicates the whole verse to people in jail.
So apparently this is a true story. I found a couple articles where they interviewed ex-inmates and said apparently her posters and particularly that magazine cover did start fights in jails. And I'm sure she got wind of this at the time. So it's like when you first listen to this, you're like, oh, she's like really, you know, putting herself on a pedestal, which whatever, every rapper does that. So like, I didn't think twice about it, but I never considered that it was like a true story. A lot of this, which apparently it was. I mean, it's a really hot XXL cover. I'd love to like go buy a vintage copy it for separate reasons for the
just
archive.
To keep it in the packaging.
Yeah, just for the Nook reading.
Don't open it. Its value.
The title of it is Lil Kim Wet. It's just the headline of that article. But apparently this really happened.
Yeah.
There you go. So can we get to what I believe is the most controversial line, which is immediately following that?
Is it the Pop-Tart? I want to talk about the Pop-Tart. Yeah.
Hotter than a Pop-Tart, fresh out of the toaster. This is important to me because I'm curious with you guys. I don't know if we've had this conversation. Were you two, either of you, any of the sick fucks that would actually toast your Pop-Tarts? Or were you just like a normal human and you just ate it out of the packaging?
It's much better toasted.
Who doesn't toast their Pop-Tarts?
You just eat it. Just take it out of the thing and eat it. You have to sit there and stick it in the toaster and you warm it all? No. Just take it out of the package and eat it.
So I had a different question about this line because I assume she's comparing her vagina to a Pop-Tart. And then that got me thinking, is that the perfect comparison or is there a better food comparison? And I think it's a pretty good comparison.
It's pretty good. It's warm and gooey on the inside.
Kinda works on a
Emojis
lot
would
of
say
levels.
that the avocado is the better equivalent.
Hmm.
Nobody sends
should-
you a Pop-Tart emoji and you go, hey.
Brian, are you one of those weirdos who toast your avocados?
Don't judge me. Spread it on warm toast.
So she continues the masturbating theme into the third verse,
Yes.
which is, I think this is the funniest line of the
I
entire
do too.
song. It's just, it's like not even sexual anymore. I think it's just funny at this point.
If you're talking about the first
The
two
first
lines,
lines, hold onto your seat, grab your meat while I ride the beat.
that's actually,
It's
I think that's the
funny.
best line of the whole song. I really do.
I do too.
Because
I agree.
you've had three, I think verse 3 personally is the best one. You've had 2 full verses of just like her having sex. And then this is like her first, this is actually, she gets a little bit into innuendo where she's like, hold on to your seat, grab your meat while I ride the beat. I'm going to ride the beat now instead of a penis. You're like, I see what you did there.
Well, and then it's sort of like lets her reveal all the references about all of the things. After that, it's just like we're out of ideas for the song after like we've told everyone to jerk off and we don't know what else to do. So, hey, guess what? This beat has the Knight Rider theme on it. I'll say something about Knight Rider. And then, oh, hey, there's something about Tootsie Rolls in this song. I'll say something about Tootsie Rolls. And I'll throw in a random Jay-Z Beanie Siegel reference because that was a popular song right around this same time, as well as a Cash Money reference because that was also popular then. So I'm just going to make references to everything.
Yeah. Next line after that, where she's like, after 3 bottles, I'm ready to fuck. I'm thinking 3 bottles. Jesus,
bottles.
lady.
Could have been champagne.
That's still a lot of bottles for one person.
Especially
And
for a little person.
After 3 bottles, I am ready to go to sleep. That is, or I'm passed out in the bushes.
You know, like those minis, like splits.
You think that's what she's talking about? You think that's
Probably
exactly what
not.
Lil Kim was talking about?
That's what they splurge on at the club.
Little mini
Some
bottles
nips.
of champagne. Little nips.
Just 3 nips. 3 nips and I'm ready.
Woo! Got me
Based
heated.
on the previous lyrics in the song, I don't think it takes that many bottles.
That is
She
true.
appeared ready from the first verse.
And then, of course, the most important thing is that she has Alexa add Lil Kim to everybody's grocery list.
Yeah,
The
that's
next
pretty
lines
good.
after that. And then right next to the whipped cream and box of chocolates. So I don't know who this guy is shopping for, but Alexa, add whipped cream and chocolates to my shopping list. And oh yeah, give me some Lil Kim too. Oh my God, I actually did kick off my Alexa, if you can hear that.
I hope
you
she
can't-
added Little Kim to your
I
shopping
think she
list.
totally did. Aaron's gonna open up the app and go, what?
Oh,
I also want to mention that just like in the little Bow Wow, she mentions a bezel, 60 on the bezel, 100 on the rings, which is just the quintessential hip hop word, I think. Bezel.
bezel?
It just has to be mentioned from here and there, and how many diamonds you can actually fit onto a single bezel.
is it 60 diamonds or $60,000 worth of diamonds?
I think it's $60,000.
That was my first take, that it was $60,000 worth of diamonds on the bezel.
Yeah.
Yep. And 100 on the rings. That was mine as well.
And 100,000 on the rings. I will say that Little Kim did have to declare bankruptcy, I think in 2005, was it? 2010? Pretty recently. I don't know. She definitely had to pawn the bezel, though, which is unfortunate.
That was sitting in her safe deposit box in the Cayman Islands somewhere.
But I mean, again, like taken from the Jay-Z verse, right? What's the song with him and Beanie Siegel?
12 a.m. on my way to the club.
It's Do It Again.
Yes, that's it.
Right, but it's just like, you know, those are like what guys always rap about. So she's just taking that over too. You know, like I can go to the club, pop bottles, and be ready to fuck too, just like any male rapper can. And then we bring it all back to the Tootsie commercial at the end, right? Which is
Well, that's how you ended how we started it.
her designer pussy has flavors,
Yeah,
and
it
you
comes
have to
in
spend
flavors.
paper and do it right, or you got to do it over like it's a rehearsal for the Tootsie Roll commercial.
But don't bite it. 1,000 licks. Cleese will tell you.
And then cue Sisqo and mic drop.
Finish up, Sisqo.
I'm a little sad that Sisqo doesn't have any verses, but you know what? He does such a good chorus. 2000 is the year of the dragon.
He did what he
So
needed
I'll
to
take as
do
much
on this
Sisqo as
song.
I can get. He did exactly what he needed to do. I'll take whatever Sisqo I can get.
Yeah, just enough.
Kind of transitions for me in terms of like where it went wrong. Um, like I don't think that Kim went wrong, but to me, where it went wrong is I think that Kim faced two major challenges in her career. A lot of it is to everything that we just talked about. I think cultural readiness. I think that she was pushing the envelope a lot, and a lot of she could be even more popular. I think if she was, came for a time when people were ready to hear it, but I don't know if people were ready to hear it because we talk about blazing so many trails where, 10 years later, you've got Nicki Minaj coming out, really great in like 2011, 2012. But like none of that happens without Lil Kim first, breaking people's consciousness, like, and, hearing it first from somewhere else.
Yeah, and pissing people off.
And yeah, exactly. I think the other challenge too is platform. You think of, you needed to have, she had to be so good because you needed airplay. There was no streaming services, you think at this time. So what you needed is you needed the record labels and you needed the radio to be popular. You need to have that hot music video to keep her playing. If you relied on coverage, you couldn't create a groundswell like you can now. I think of, we keep talking about WAP a lot because it's funny, but I think of, how many licks 20 years ago, you had to hide that from your parents. Or if it came on the radio, maybe, you pretended you didn't like it if you were in the car with somebody because it was kind of hidden versus, now with streaming services, with social media, now there's, playing WAP in front of your parents and getting their reaction and posting it online. It's like a cultural phenomenon of let me play this for you and see people's grotesque reactions versus 20 years ago when it was like I don't know, can we talk about this? Which is obviously, a real struggle.
So where it went wrong, I don't know like if the song specifically goes wrong, but a lot of things went wrong for Little Kim. Just, we talked about her rough upbringing, like her homelessness, all of that stuff. And then in 2002, there was like a shooting incident outside of the studio that she apparently witnessed and then perjured herself about it in court because she's not a snitch. And then eventually, like security footage showed that like she was there when it happened. So obviously she had seen it, and she ends up going to jail in 2005 for about a year for perjury, which is right when Bella Mafia comes out, which is indisputably her best album. And she's not able to promote the album. She's not able to go tour. She's not able to really. And so it doesn't sell that well, even though it's like hugely critically acclaimed. Fast forward, I guess, in last year, she ended up filing for bankruptcy too. And so she's been putting out music, touring, doing all this stuff for like 20 years. I mentioned she's part of Biggie's estate, so she still has some money from there, but like just has not kept it together financially. But at the same time, managed to put a clothing line out just last year as well, which is like an amazing website to go to, prettylittlething.us, because she is modeling all the clothing, and Kim's become like a bit plus size these days, and is like very body positive and like has like nothing but positive things to say to all the haters. So she like comes off as actually a really good person throughout a lot of the interviews and a lot of the stuff you've seen. But like, I think things go wrong for her in the sense that like she has never been able to fully capitalize on her talent. Some of the things her fault, some of the things just circumstances beyond her control. But I think she should actually be more popular than she is and like have had a bigger impact than she's had, and just like has had a number of bad breaks over the years.
Yeah, I think coming from her childhood, it sounds like she's gone basically from like one abusive relationship to the next,
Yeah.
and including Biggie. And I think that I had read, because she's like, Little Kim now is almost unrecognizable from Little Kim in 1995 or whenever hardcore came out. And I think that initially I had read that she had actually her nose broken by one of her boyfriends, and that was the reason she had initially gotten a nose job. But she's clearly had a lot more done since then. And I think, and she said it before, that she's always had kind of body image issues, when she was younger, people were saying that she wasn't pretty enough and she was too short or she was too dark. And I think that's kind of also contributed to kind of what's been going on with her.
Yeah, that was like a really sad story. She like moved out to the suburbs at one point, like into a white neighborhood, and got like made fun of for being like too dark skinned. And I think like, awful as that is, that had like a real serious psychological impact on her. And even her skin tone is now much lighter. It's not quite full Michael Jackson, but it's it's clear she's got a lot of issues with a lot of that stuff as well, which is too bad because like really she seems like a very like sweet, like nice person. Like all these people are making fun of her on Twitter, and she's just like, make changes for yourself, be positive, like, doesn't like really seem to have a negative thing to say about anyone, and doesn't get baited into any of that kind of stuff. But like getting back to the song, like does the song go wrong for you guys in any way?
I don't think so. I mean, for me, it's I like the song. The only thing that this is just a personal preference is that it is very literal. There's no innuendo, spank him and cum in his mouth, or the Puerto Rican poppy was a deacon. Like I like a little bit like a rapper like Fabulous, where he's got a lot of innuendo. Or I think of some of the lyrics that like Nicki has of the pussy put his ass to sleep, call me NyQuil. Like I like things like that more so than the straight up like this is exactly what I'm going to do and what I am talking about. So I wish it wasn't as literal. But that's just nitpicking, because I mean that's her style, and obviously she's had success from it.
It's it's also Bad Boy too. Is like not too many people on Bad Boy are funny.
That's true.
Mace is funny. Yeah. Well, Mace was funny.
I don't have any issues with the song. I don't think the song goes wrong anywhere from me. I think it is. It does what it's supposed to do. It is what it is.
They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There are some missed opportunities for humor, but that's pretty nitpicky. The beat's great. The song is provocative. It's fun. It's got an amazing hook. Sisqo's on it. Hard to go wrong. I had a really important question this week. Oh, one, I want to talk about the Tootsie Roll before we close out today, because how and when did the Tootsie Roll become sexualized? It seems like a weird thing. I mean, obviously you have the 94 song, like the Tootsie Roll, where it becomes a dance and becomes a whole like sexualized dance, and like from the 69 Boys. And we couldn't like have this episode without talking about the 69 Boys for a minute. But
couldn't we?
We absolutely could not have. Cotton candy, sweet gold, let me see that Tootsie Roll. Right, and then like Kim takes it to the next level. It's just like it's a weird candy to sexualize, because I don't think there's anything particularly sexual about it. But like,
you could have gone with like a Jolly Rancher or something that a little bit sweeter.
I guess a lollipop or something. It's a Tootsie Roll pop, so sure. But I don't know. I found that really funny, and so now it's like a thing in hip hop, right? You have that song, you have this song, you have like a number of candy references throughout hip hop. So I wanted to know, like, did this really have an impact on Tootsie Roll sales? And so naturally, like, I Googled.
Was there a study about it?
There wasn't a study. So what I had to do was to go dig up Tootsie Roll Company's annual reports and prospectus notices to the shareholders. And in case anyone is curious, I know Brian is very proud. It did. So from 98 to 99, they were only pulling in like $380,000 in net sales a year. And like they were seeing pretty modest and steady increases of about like 3,000 to 4,000 a year.
Were you at the shareholders meeting?
He was listening to the recordings.
And throughout the 90s, but from 99 to 2000, they had their biggest gain in sales of jumping from like 390,000 to 423,000 or so those years. Wow. So I can only attribute that to Lil Kim, record sales for the Tootsie Roll Company in the year 2000. You're welcome. You're all welcome. I hope
she got her cut.
I do too. I'm sure she did.
And she doesn't even really mention it specifically until the very end there. It's all just an allusion to the licks that it takes to get to the center of it.
Oh, now I get it.
Well, and I wondered if there were copyright issues there or something, but I don't know.
For the real thick-headed people, guys, I'm talking about Tootsie Rolls or Tootsie Pops. Oh,
Oh, the
So
Tootsie Rolls.
so ranking, can it be anything but Tootsie Pops?
I thought it was going to be Licks.
I think it
Proceed.
should be Licks. I think Licks is good.
Okay, how many licks?
How many? All right.
I'll-
So the question, let me just clarify before you answer. The question is, how many licks do you give the song? Not how many licks do you want to give Lil Kim?
Oh, okay.
Or
Those
you
are
could answer both
remarkably
of those
different.
questions, but they're probably different numbers.
Oh, very vastly different numbers. This song, I'll give it 4 licks. I think it's really interesting that I thought the song is a lot of fun. Kim is a lot of fun. Sisqo is Sisqo. He is the dragon. I like that based on where culture is going, has gone, the song gets more palatable with age. I just think that's super interesting. So it's a very interesting, fun song. I think if it comes in the club, I think it's fun and interesting. So it's not a prolific song, but it continues to be fun and interesting. So that is what gets it to 4 for me.
Jared?
I think I'm going to give it 3.5 licks. I think I have to separate the song from kind of Lil Kim and her career, and just focusing on the song itself. I agree. I think it's a fun song. It's much more in tune with our culture right now. I don't think there's anything about the song that really wows me, and I think she has put out a lot of better tracks before. So I'm gonna go 3.5.
Yeah, I'm with Brian on this. I think it's 4 licks for me. Just the song got better with time. I remember not loving this song when it came out. Maybe that's it being more in tune with the culture. Maybe it's, the beat having really good staying power. Maybe it's my renewed love of Sisqo. But I think it's a good song. I think it's fun. I think you can still play it today. It's still like very much in tune with where we're at. It's, the only thing that keeps it, I would say, from 5 licks is it's not particularly meaningful or prolific. I agree with Jared. She has a lot of better songs that are more like get you hyped up, make you feel something. But this song's definitely fun. And I don't think any of us had any real criticisms of it either, which is pretty unusual. I thought we would have a ton on a track like this, but you kind of dig a little deeper into it, and it's actually a very solid song. So it's 4 solid licks to get
You
to
could
the
grab your
center
meat
of
while she rides the beat.
all of those things. Any last thoughts on Lil Kim?
Oh, I've got thoughts
got-
on Little Kim.
Any last thoughts you'd like to say out loud about Lil Kim?
Please leave a message after the beep. Beep.
I think that anytime you piss off C. Dolores Tucker, you're probably doing something right.
That's very true, and unfortunately not that hard to do, at least in the 90s and 2000s. But good for Lil Kim. The Queen Bee, still the Queen Bee. Check out Bella Mafia. Check out Notorious KM. Hardcore, Pretty Little Thing. Kim's supposed to be going on tour with like Fabulous and Who's Ever Around from the Locks next year. She's still out there doing her thing. So I'd go see a show. I think that would be fun. If we can ever go to concerts or do fun things again, that would be a delight. So Lil Kim, How Many Licks, Sisqo, great track. What do we have next week on Rap of Ages?
Well, next week, I know you're going to hold me down like whoa. I can't wait for Jared to be on the track again. I've enjoyed having him 3rd season. Whoa, like whoa.
Whoa.
I can't remember what song whoa we're talking about next. Whoa.
We're staying with Bad Boy. We're staying with Black Rob, and we're going to learn how to not make a catchphrase.
Whoa.
Like,
Are you
whoa.
serious? Whoa.
Stop trying to make whoa a thing.
Explosion.
And I want to go back to two things in that line because it's got one of what I think is the most controversial lines, which I think we really need to talk about. But first, before we get to the most controversial line in the entire song, Kim got your dick hard, starting fights in the yard. I'm just envisioning just a bunch of guys running around with boners, trying to punch each other. And they're mad.
Let's be honest, that's something you're visualizing separate from this song.
It's true. It's just
they're fighting about her poster.
Go, give me that poster. There's a running around just like a bunch of boners. Don't act like you're not impressed.